record button. Everyone should have got a notification that we're recording. Hopefully that worked out. I'm going to allow share screen. Just be gentle. Don't abuse it. Otherwise I take it away.
So I don't know, Charlie, we'll wait a couple minutes until we get some other folks in here. It doesn't look like we're missing quite a few of the BDC.
Correct. I just wanted to make sure we started recording at 3:45, and then as they come in, they get the notification.
Okay.
So just a little cleaner that way.
I'll start sharing my screen because I've got the agenda.
Everyone should have received the agenda as well. I think I sent it right about 2 o'clock. So at least you have your own copy of it. You can look at it as well. And I unenabled the waiting room so people as they come in can just come in. I'm not really going to monitor who's coming in and who's not. It's open meeting, so. Up to 11. Should be, might want to wait a few more minutes. I imagine there should be about 20 before we want to start, hopefully.
Okay, well, it looks like we've got the majority for sure now, and Ms. Ahrens is on the call. Hello, Ms. Ahrens, how are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
I think we'll go ahead and get started. So everybody should have got the agenda this afternoon. If not, I have it up on the screen that I'm sharing as well. Can everybody see that? Okay, perfect. So to kick us off, I just wanted to give a quick brief project update. So as of the 29th of last year now, and I guess a couple of months ago, since we're February 1st today, we submitted the UDC application on December 29th. And so that is in preparation for the March Urban Design Commission hearing. And then on earlier in January on the 11th, the Assembly approved the school bond to be on the April 5th ballot. So that was a success, and we've got that on the bond now. Or we got that on the ballot now. And then the third thing that we're working on is the design team is working towards 95%. We're working on all the different details and elements proceeding from 65 to 95. Our 95% submittal is due March 4th, so a little more than a month from now. So we're still working on those details. We're working with Cornerstone, our general contractor. They gave us pricing on 65%, so we're adjusting things and making everything meet within the project budget. So that's ongoing effort right now. And then We will have a final BDC meeting in March following the 95% submittal. And that will be one last opportunity for final input from the BDC. And then in April, I believe it's April 5th on a Tuesday, is when we'll have the MOA elections for the school bond. And then upon hopefully with approval of the school bond, then we will complete the construction documents. And then construction would start in May after school gets out. And so that's kind of the brief update as to what we've been doing and where we're headed. And so the main purpose for today's meeting is the second item on the agenda, which is having the BDC look at alternative front parking lot layout options. And this is based on a discussion with the MOA Assembly and specifically the South Addition Assemblyman, Chris Constant, and basically trying to look at some alternative options for how the student exit or the student driveway exit from the school and where that could potentially be aligned with 13th or how it could be adjusted so it's not directly in front or aligned with one person's property. And so we'll go over those options today. And then we'll review some design material and then we'll look at design
Alice, don't forget to start on your science project.
to be completed here as we finalize things. So if we flip to let's see, page 2 of the PDF. These drawings are dated January 10th, which was the day of that assembly meeting. So this was based on a request, to look at this from Chris Constant. And so you could see what we're talking about with the existing current design. Here, if I zoom in a little bit here, we've got the Clark residence, Buckley residence, Delaney residence, and then residence, those 4 properties right here. And right now, the current design, the driveway lines up right across from David McCarthy's residence and his driveway. And so that's partially where this is coming from with Assemblyman Chris Constant. So we're looking at that and a little bit further. And so the current design right now has some successes and then obviously the challenge. So the successes that we see for the design as it currently is we have a larger and better organized on-site drop-off and pickup area that will keep all the school traffic on site and off the street. MOA Traffic Department is requiring that all school traffic be managed on site and not within the streets, the neighborhood streets. This requires that the drop-off and pickup loop hold a total of 48 vehicles. This design accommodates a total of 22 vehicles in the drop-off lane, and 26 vehicles in the bypass lane. Number 2, the success is rerouted traffic patterns favor neighborhood commuters and school users. And then 3, the 13th Avenue crosswalk across Inlet Place aligns with the front entry of the school. And so that's the direct access right there. And then obviously what I just discussed earlier, the challenge is that the school site exit driveway aligns directly with the McCarthy residence's driveway. And so that's the challenge that we're looking at. How can we better that situation or rectify that situation? Does anybody have any questions on the current design before I move on to look at these alternatives? Mitch, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'd like to point out that there are some other downsides to the currently proposed design. One of which is the multiple pedestrian crossing points within the parking lot. And that's one of the things that was actually called out in the community council resolution to eliminate if at all possible. Another item that's a downside with the currently proposed layout of the parking lot is the fact that it's going to serve to congest the 13th and Inlet Place intersection with traffic and will in turn impede exit of the entire neighborhood backing up all the way down 15th towards the lagoon, since that's the primary exit from the neighborhood. So I just want to throw that out there. There's more than one issue, just McCarthy's driveway.
Okay, sure. And that's been expressed and we understand that. There's differencing of opinions on that, but we don't need to talk about that at this point. Does anybody have any questions specifically about the current design?
Oh, no, Paul, mine is not a question, but maybe a suggestion that when you are talking, since, if you are presenting your screen, if you can just zoom in so we can
See better?
see a little bit better what you're when you're talking.
Okay,
That's my only suggestion. So we don't have, or I personally don't have to go like super
Sure.
close to the screen. Thank you.
okay, certainly, we can definitely do that. Okay, any other questions on the current design right now? Okay, I'll move on to the alternates. So the alternate option one, so what we're looking at here is basically shifting the driveway south approximately 30 feet. So the driveway is no longer aligned directly with McCarthy Residence's driveway, and it actually places it centered on the property line between McCarthy Residence and Delaney Residence, so it's not impacting anybody's driveway specifically. You can see when I zoom in here, we elongated this stretch of the drive lane here. So it's no longer exactly symmetrical, the entry driveway and the exit driveway. So we got a little bit of elongated, really landscape area here. The parking lot remains symmetrical, but we kind of just stretched this out and pushed this driveway down 30 feet. And so the successes are still the same, similar as what we talked about with the existing design. But we're adding to the success of shifting the school site so it's not directly aligned with the McCarthy residence. Here's a street view of where that exit would come out to. And so you can see how it's not going to be impacting anybody's specific driveway or headlights into living spaces or anything like that. And so this is one of the solutions that we presented as to help with the issue that we were presented with. So that's option one. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Does anybody have any questions on option one? Okay, I'll move on. Yeah.
Paul, can I just for memory's sake, how long, Patricia, is the drop-off pickup situation busy?
Well, from what I remember, the drop-off that we have timed, it's between at the beginning of the year, when everybody's just getting used to know where they have to go and everything, it's been taking maybe 11 to 12 minutes. But like right now, and just any BDC members, if you can correct me, but I think it's between 6 and 7 minutes, when we get all the parents, come here, park, picked up their students and leave. It's between 6 and at the most 6 or 9 minutes, stretching it out, I think. And, I know that there are some members that are actually out there doing the outside duty, for example, Mrs. Mack is very quick. So I don't know if anybody of the other BDC members want to share, because they are the ones that are outside, but it's just, my understanding is just between 6 or 7, 8, maximum 9 minutes.
Yeah, I'm the one who's out on duty during that time at Inlet Place, in the morning, 5 days a week, and in the afternoon. And most kids are in the building within 15 minutes in the morning, but I stay out on Inlet Place until 9 o'clock. And there's not really any traffic. It's like 10 or 15 minutes in the morning max. And then in the afternoon, like you said, at this time of year, it's about 6 or 7 minutes. I stay out there till 3:40 just to make sure. But today, all the kids were out and in their cars by 6 minutes past. The only thing yesterday, there was an issue. Somebody got stuck at the light, and so that can back things up considerably if there's a car sliding on the ice. So that's the only thing that throws it for a loop in the winter.
So the busy traffic is from 8:40, 8:45 to 9:05, and then again at 3:30 is when school gets out. So 3:15 to 3:45, those are the two times, right? Monday through Friday, and not at all in the summer. I just want to be clear on, what the main traffic impact is. Thanks.
So to clarify, I'm out there those times that you just said, but their traffic is not going on at that time. So today the traffic stopped at 3:36. Everybody was done. And maybe 3:37. I remember looking at my clock at that time and everybody was cleared out. And then in the morning, it's from like 8:40 to most of the kids are in by 8:55. So not quite as long as the actual duty that I'm out there.
Thank you all for that. Hey, Charlie, can you mute Deborah? You've got background noise.
I just unmuted. But that's also 346 is partly because you got older kids on Inlet Place and younger kids on N Street, right? And the ones from N Street can go, the younger kids can either go out 12th, out 11th, out 10th, or they can go all the way around the UE and come around Inlet Place. That's what I saw anyway when I was out there.
And some of the kids leave on the street that's north of the building as well, the intermediate kids. So some of them get picked up on that street, but it's mostly on the Inlet Place.
Sure. And that's what's happening now with the existing conditions. Okay, that's perfect. So any other questions on this option 1? I'll move on to option 2 if there's no other questions. Okay, so then option 2 is what we're trying to do is align what was asked of us by Chris Constant was to align the exit with 13th Avenue. And I know this has been something that I think Mitch has even mentioned that he would like to see. And so we looked at how this could be done and what would need to be done in order to maintain the amount of drop-off pickup lane space we need to maintain those 48 vehicles that are required by the municipality, and then to also have our parking count that we need. And so this here presents this option. And so we have, listed the successes and some challenges here. So I kind of zoom in on this so you guys can see that. So, and I'll kind of talk this through a little bit. We maintain the pedestrian traffic with the 13th Avenue and Inlet Place crosswalk for students walking across that crosswalk to school, and maintains that entryway into the school site. But what we're doing is shifting, in order to do that and to align with 13th Avenue, we're shifting all the parking, basically front parking and student drop off and pickup areas to the north, and having that entry point rather than being on Inlet Place coming in off of 12th Avenue. And so we maintain the amount of linear feet that we need for our queuing for managing the 48 vehicles to accommodate that. We still maintain the other successes with the 13th Avenue crosswalk, the rerouted traffic patterns that favor the neighborhood commuters, or community commuters and school users. And then the school site exit no longer aligns with residents, but aligns with 13th Avenue. And so those are the successes. The challenges that we see with this option is a loss of green space. I think that's probably the primary element. That's a big, challenge, is the reduction of the playfield to accommodate the relocated drop-off and pickup lane. And then we no longer have the drop-off and pickup lane directly in front of the school. So you can see from the plan that the entry of the school's here, student drop-off is here. So there's just a long ways to walk to get to the front entry. Even if you're at the front of the line, there's still a significant, not significant, I guess, but a distance that you have to walk to get to the front of the school. It's no longer directly in front of the school anymore. So that's a challenge. And then also it makes the student drop off and pickup lane is no longer next to the primary student entry. So the primary student entry and playground is over here. And so the way that, the original design or the current design is done is that there's a primary student drop-off area that is closer to this entrance, separated for the intermediate student and drop-off area. And so we no longer have that separation anymore. And all of those students are being dropped off further away from the school entry point. So those are the challenges. but we do have the success of aligning with 13th Avenue. And so this is option 2 that we presented. And so now, I mean, I kind of just want to open it up for discussion. I guess first, is there any questions on option 2? And then we'll go from questions to discussion.
Paul, I'm assuming there's no kind of light or electronic traffic controlling device at that intersection, right?
Correct.
It's just,
Correct, that is correct.
Okay.
So it's just an exit only, it's a one-way. And so there would be a stop sign for the exit to get out to you would either get to proceed straight off 13th or turn left on Inlet Place. And there'd be a stop sign at the exit. Any other questions?
There are raised hands.
Yeah, Moya?
My question is, it looks like there would be a possibility for parents to drive north on Inlet Place and drop their kids along the walkway here, particularly primary kids, right? Like that seems like a very obvious shortcut that people would take. Is that one you would be okay with, or would you be trying to prevent that?
We would want to prevent that from a student safety aspect, because the child would be exiting the passenger door on the street side versus the sidewalk side. So because if it was a two-way, it would work perfect. But since it's a one-way headed north, the driver's side would be the one on the sidewalk, not the passenger side. And so that is a student safety concern from that aspect.
So how would you discourage that?
It'd be hard. It would be hard to discourage that. I mean, it's kind of like what's happening now with the existing layout. Parents are dropping their kids off on all 3 sides of the school in the streets. And there really isn't a way for the school to currently prevent that from happening. So that current safety element is, not being considered at the moment. Are there any other questions? If not, we can go ahead, Bonnie, Mitch, and then Kelly. You guys have all have your hands up.
I guess I have 2 questions, and Miss Mack and Miss Vaya might be able to answer these. But Miss Vaya, I was wondering how young primary teachers would feel about walking their kids that far. And Miss Mack, what do you think about the sledding hill emptying right into the hockey rink boards? I know that happens at like a polar bear park. The kids sled right down into a concrete barrier, and it's stressful for everybody. And so I was wondering, Paul, if there were solutions for that, or if that's just an issue of this new idea.
I don't think, I mean, I could answer the question about the sledding hill. I don't know if you're really not sledding into the hockey rink. The intent is to slide down into the field this way.
Yeah.
But if kids are coming down the side slope, the way this is going to be sloped is it has an easier terrain to walk up on this side of the hill. So you would be able to walk easier up the hill and then go down the steeper portion of the hill down into the playfield.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the way it's designed currently over on this corner of the property. It's similar in that sense. We're just basically flipping it 180 degrees over to this other corner. So you would walk kind of up along the hockey rink and then sled down into the playfield.
I suppose the last question is, or Paul, you and I were both at the community council meeting when there was so much concern expressed about losing green space.
Yeah.
And so with this, I feel like there were so many neighbors who were unhappy with losing green space. And so are we just pleasing one neighbor to upset the rest now? Or how do we just decide the green space situation?
That's a valid point and a valid concern. I think, where we're at now is this is up for discussion. We're gathering input from the BDC today. And then we'll go back and talk with ASD, CP&C to determine how we want to move forward and if we want to utilize any of these options we're talking about, or do we want to stick with the current design. So today's purpose is to have that discussion for ASD to gather that input from the building design committee. I know you had a question, Bonnie, to where's her name? To Michelle. Michelle, did you want to respond to that question she asked about the students and the walking path to the primary student entry?
Yeah, I mean, that is a considerable increase in space to walk from before. And yeah, I mean, I'd prefer for, of course, it to be a shorter walking distance for kids because there's many. And if they see their parents, their immediate response is to just go right away. And of course, we train them as best as we can to wait and all those things. But it is kind of far.
I suspect, and this is kind of my just assumption maybe is under this scenario, this option, the primary students probably wouldn't enter and exit the end of the classroom wing. They would just go through the main front door.
Right. And then everybody's leaving out that door, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So that brings another situation that we have, the kindergartners, when they are going out to recess, and the way that we have recess this year is, the field is open to, well, before COVID, or we're trying to have the opportunity to have the kids go to the hill. So if thinking about all the way from a kindergarten to go from the last part of the hallway to go all the way across the hockey rink to go to the hill. So it's a very long way for kids to go for recess. I'm just thinking about the kids that really enjoy the hill, especially during the winter. They really, I mean, most of the kids want to slide on the hill. So it's going to be like a long time. How would be the path? How would you suggest that students go out to recess if they want to go to the hill, or if PE is going to be on the hill?
Well, I think that is the same regardless of the option. So this is the current design. So the current design has the sledding hill on this corner.
Yeah.
And so the walkway from the primary wing or the kindergarten classroom wing here, they're going to walk through the school and go through the exit to the playground near the gym, and then walk across the playfield to the sledding hill.
So the walk is inside the building.
The walk is inside the building, and then outside the building to the sledding hill. Here, under this option 2 scenario, it's the same. It's just versus coming to this corner, you're coming to this corner.
Okay. Well, thanks for clarifying that, Paul. Thank you.
So we'll move on to Mitch. You got some comments or questions?
Yeah, I would like to point out at the last community council meeting here last week that we had the municipal traffic engineer was in attendance there. And we discussed this scenario here, that the option that we're looking at, and he did say that it was their preference, the municipal traffic department's preference, to utilize the existing intersection as opposed to creating 2 new intersections in a fairly short space there, where you already have another intersection in between those 2. So I want to point out that that's the municipal traffic department's preference, is the one that we're looking at right there. Also, I'd like to point out that the state of Alaska in their traffic impact analysis calls for the utilization of existing intersections whenever possible, which this one does. And the other examples that we were looking at, they don't. That's all I have right now.
Okay, thanks, Mitch. That makes sense. Kelly, you're next.
Yeah, this one worries me with the entrance coming off from 12th. That hill coming down 12th from L Street's like really not safe. And I can see cars maybe getting backed up where they're waiting to turn in onto the property, and then having cars trying to stop as they're coming down that big hill. The bus struggles on that hill too. And so you're creating a new intersection here that's not in as ideal a place at all, where if you have the new intersection created on Inlet Place, I think that would be a lot safer. Also, we always have problems trying to get parents not to drop kids off and pick them up on 12th, because they have to cross the traffic. If they come down the hill and they stay on the north side, and then they want their kids to dash across 12th Street with no crosswalk or anything. And we've tried to discourage that all the time that I've been here, and it just still happens. And I feel it's like one of the biggest safety issues on our pickup and drop off is that 12th Avenue. So I would love to see like that not be a natural way for them to skirt the drop off and pickup. And I don't like how much green space is taken up on this one either.
Can I just point out, if there's a problem with the bus going down the hill and being able to stop in time for this intersection on 12th, then the bus is really going to have a hard time stopping in time to turn left on Inlet Place.
No, it's not. It's going all the way. The bus goes all the way straight and would go to In Street and comes on the bus loop on that other side.
Oh, I
of the
see.
school.
I see.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so it
Thanks for
wouldn't-
that clarification.
Yeah.
I think that I think your point about that being a tricky hill is really important, and cars do struggle coming down it. So actually, that's one of my concerns about having them have to turn left at Inlet Place. Having all of them do that is that you have all of that traffic, and there's a shorter period for them to stop before they have to make that left-hand turn. Versus this one extends that period from the hill, where if it's slippery, that extra time can definitely help in the wintertime. I have been there many times on that hill.
I think with the option one, they'd come, hopefully more would come down 13th and then take that right and then come around through there, which might eliminate coming down that 12th hill. But I also worry if this one, like a handicap parking spot is also far from the front door compared to the other option too. Not only the primary kid pickup, but the actual just a spot to park if you are handicapped.
So to clarify, Maura and Kelly, so the 12th Avenue coming from L Street down, I understand is a hill coming down, just like the 13th Avenue is a hill coming down. Are they the same in terms of treacherousness with the ice in terms of coming down the hill?
No,
I would say 12th is worse, but
yeah, without a doubt.
So 12th is worse. Okay, so because I think what you were saying, Kelly, is that with this option, with the entry driveway on Inlet Place, you have the option to come down 13th, make a right, and then make a left.
Yeah.
And then you have the alternative option to come down 12th, make a left, and make a right.
Yeah.
So you have two different options to get to the entry on Inlet Place.
correct.
Okay, Sharon, you're next.
Yeah, I just was wondering on the most recent proposal, was there any discussion of reorienting the primary playground to the newly created green space there?
To this one here, like right?
Yes, yes, that one.
We haven't had that discussion yet, no, but that is a good option. If we do decide to move forward with this particular option, relocating the primary student playground out into this area would give them some more green space. Definitely is a good idea. Did you have anything else, Sharon? Okay, Petra, you're next.
I guess I just don't think that this plan benefits the kids or the teachers or the staff at the school in any way compared to the other ones. So I guess that's my general comment.
Okay. Looks like Mitch, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that there's no reason or nothing that would preclude parents dropping off or picking up with this option from utilizing 13th to enter the neighborhood, just as they would turn right down 13th and then left into the C-shaped parking lot. They could do the same with this, right on 13th, north on Inlet Place, and then left on 12th and into the parking lot. They don't necessarily have to use the steeper hill on 12th. One other thing that I'd like to point out, that all of your challenges and downsides associated with this layout could be addressed if the new school was placed in the northwest corner of the lot. All of those challenges would go away.
Okay, that's understood, Mitch. I think we're beyond that point now, though, but that's definitely understood. Okay, does anybody have any other discussion items for these options? Okay, I think so we'll go back to CP&C and have a discussion to determine how we want to proceed with whether we stick with the current design or use option 1 or option 2. I guess between those 3 options, between the current design or option 1 and option 2, maybe, oh, it looks like Maura has her hand up. Did you have something, Maura, you wanted to talk about?
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, I did have a comment. So based on the last meeting of this group, the one in early December, I feel that there is frustration around it not being clear how the views expressed here are then communicated to the school district. And let me be a little bit clearer on that. So obviously there's clear frustration that I think some of the newer neighborhood members of the group came in and wanted changes to the design, and then tried to communicate that. And what came back to us from the school district was, nope, we're sticking with things exactly the way we provided them. So my question based on that is, if we are expressing opinions tonight, which I think we are, A, is there some kind of formal way to do that, i.e. through a vote? And B, how exactly does that communicate to the school district? Because my fear here is, there are a number of us on this call who I'm kind of gathering have a strong preference for the third option that we saw. I would put myself in that camp. I really want to be able to voice that strongly, and I want to make sure that the school district understands, what percentage or ratio of members of this committee felt that way, what the comments were, and had an opportunity to really review that, because I worry about those of us who are new to the process being a little bit railroaded. And I think our views are just as important as those who've been in it for a long time, and this should be as inclusive as possible.
Sure, and I could answer that question, and I think that's a good question and a point of order for clarification. And so with the new BDC members that were brought on last November, we sent out that participation guideline for the BDC, and and that clearly stated that the BDC, the point of the BDC and being on a member is to provide input for ASD, and that the BDC is not the one that makes any decisions, and it's actually ASD does hold the final say in anything. But the point of the BDC is to gather input and to hear what the BDC has to say. And so the way that the ASD and capital planning and construction is gathering this input or hearing this is they're all participating in these meetings. They're on the call now. Edie Knapp, Larry Morris, Tom Fenisif, and Charlie Peters. Those are the 4 individuals that all work with CP&C. And so they're hearing these conversations. And then the process after the BDC meeting is we go back to the CP&C Envision architecture and our design team. We go back to CP&C and we have a meeting and we discuss everything that was talked about in the BDC to make a decision to move forward with. And so that's been the process since day one. And that's basically what we've been doing and how we've been continuing to do that. And so as noted in the BDC meeting from December, I stated in my presentation and in the agenda that we went back and talked with CP&C and they determined to stick with the school being on the south end of the site, as it was noted, for the reasons that we identified. But we did implement a lot of different changes to the plan. We just didn't move the building. So the input that we gathered from the new BDC and the input that we gathered from the community, all of that got filtered and put and implemented into the design. We reduced the parking count. We increased the buffer between Inlet Place and the parking. We situated the playgrounds in different ways to maximize sun exposure. We reoriented the sledding hill. We did lots of different things. And so we're continuing to go through that process. And so that's what will be the next step is we'll do that exact same thing. We'll have an internal meeting with ASD, CP&C to make a decision how we move forward. So we're gathering that input to help influence or make the decision. We can definitely have a vote. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I'm assuming Charlie would be okay with that. We can just go through. We've got 3 options we can just have each individual on the BDC identify their preferred option, and we could tally those. That way we have that on the record.
I really appreciate that clarification, Paul. I think that's really helpful for me to understand who all is on the call and who's all participating in this decision as we go forward. You know, the last thing I'll say on this is I'm ambivalent. I was ambivalent about the school being in the northwest corner versus on the south side of the lot. My strong preference was to keep parking on the west side on N Street. And given that the decision has been made that the school is going to be on the south side, and B, the decision has also been made apparently that the parking is going to be on Inlet Place. The pushback I'm hearing on design number 3 is, it would reduce green space, and it would, potentially have people, driving down 12th or making left turns if they don't want to, et cetera. And I guess I just feel like if those were problems, we should go back to maybe not having the parking on Inlet Place. But at the point where we're now talking about having parking on Inlet Place, in order to have a compromise that the neighborhood can live with having the school on the south side and the drop off on Inlet Place, I think we need to accept that there are some trade-offs, and that may include green space and longer walking. And if others feel that those are unacceptable trade-offs, then we really need to go back to a conversation about not having the drop off on Inlet Place. And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, no, and that's good, and we hear you, and I appreciate the comments. The one thing I would say, and I guess a little bit of rebuttal to that is, because my preference is not to lose green space. My preference is to stick with the current design, and do we really need to move our driveway because one resident is unhappy with where the exit driveway is because it's across from his house? I mean, it's not against the law for our driveway to be there. There's, so I would point that out, is that it's for one person that we're talking about making sacrifices for an entire school and an entire community. So that's just one thing I'd say in response to that. Because I do think as the architect of record and the designer, and working with the school and gathering input from everybody, because it's not my intent to make anybody unhappy. I'm trying to satisfy everybody as much as I can. I really do feel like what we've designed is the best solution out there. And it's going to serve the school and the community really, really well. And I understand that there's a handful of residents that are on the south side of the lot that don't appreciate what we've designed. But I really do think that this is the best option and design for the school, for ASD and the community.
Quickly, if I could clarify that my concern is not about the alignment with the McCarthy's driveway, although I empathize with the McCarthy's and how frustrating that would be. My concern actually is broader, and it's about the backup of traffic that's going to go up 13th and onto L Street. L Street is one of the largest arterial roads in the state. And then likewise, going the opposite direction when we're doing drop off versus pickup. So, it's a short hill. You're going to have a lot more cars there. You're going to have them in a compressed period of time because instead of going through the neighborhood, everybody's in one short place. So that's my concern, is really concentrating all the traffic on Inlet Place on 13th, having a whole bunch of people trying to turn right onto L Street, a very, very busy street. There's going to be a lot of accidents. And I empathize with the McCarthy's, but my main concern, I'm sorry to say, is really broader than that. And that's why I really oppose the Inlet Place plan. But if we're going to have an Inlet Place plan, I think there need to be mitigations. And I think that version 3 is the best one.
Okay, no, that's perfect. And I do want to talk about the traffic impact, because we, as Mitch mentioned at the last community council meeting last week, the traffic engineer with MOA that we've been working with on this project and getting input from and making suggested changes based on their input along with the community. He presented his position, or not his position, but his response to a request to come to the community council and explain the process. And so they've looked at the traffic camera on L Street. They've looked at all the traffic counts and compared those to the traffic counts that our design team has provided. Excuse me. And we're all in agreement with our numbers and the amount of traffic. And I think that there's a lot of individuals that think that the traffic is going to be an issue, when really with what we've looked at and designed, it's not. It's going to actually improve the issue. And so I would like to talk about a couple of alternative options with traffic here in just a second, but I'd like to move beyond these options first. And I think based on the suggestion, we should have a vote. Charlie, are you okay with that?
Yeah, BDC vote's fine on this, so we can see where everyone stands.
Okay, before we do that, Mitch has his hand up. Let Mitch comment.
A question for you. So I see in your notes here regarding these, it's specifying 48 vehicle spots on the pickup and drop off loop. Now, can you just clarify, this is in addition to the 66, 67, whatever spots it is that's required by code?
That is in addition to the parking count, yes. So that's separate. So the parking count is required by code to suffice for cars parking. And then based on our discussions and coordination with MOA traffic and the parking count for cars that come to and from the school to pick up their students or their kids, and the counts that our design team did and the counts that MOA did with the amount of cars that come to and from the site, we need to be able to manage and maintain 48 vehicles on site within our drop-off pickup queuing lane so that traffic is not backed up out onto the street.
Okay, and can you clarify what was the average drop-off pickup counts?
That's the max is 48.
Max is what you came up with. It just seems odd to me. We seem to be presuming that literally nobody is going to use the parking spots, that they're just going to use the drop off and pick up queuing lanes. And if we have a parking lot that literally nobody is going to use, that seems like an awful lot of wasted potential green space. So I would suggest that, you know, regardless of the parking lot version that we pick here, that we could potentially downsize the parking lot significantly if we could take into account the 48 spots in the pickup and drop off lanes that are going to be utilized as parking for the purposes of dropping off and picking up. That's a suggestion I have.
Yeah, no, and that makes sense. And I could see where you're coming from on that. There's a difference between the parking spaces and the drop-off lanes, because the drop-off lane's not parking, it's just queuing. And
I understand.
And so between those two, one of the other things that the MOA traffic department likes about our plan and in terms of an operational standpoint is they're saying they agree that we need to be able to stack 48 vehicles within our queuing lane. But if there's ever more traffic than 48 vehicles, they want us to be able to maintain those vehicles on site as well and not let them stack out into Inlet Place. And so from an operational standpoint, at that point, if that ever happened, because there was more kids with more vehicles, then there would be somebody directing traffic to say, okay, our queuing lane is full. We can't queue out into Inlet Place because MOA traffic doesn't want us to do that. So we're going to direct traffic now to come into the parking area and park to pick up your kid. So all the vehicles that are coming to and from the school to pick up children are on site and not on the city street.
It just seems in excess of what's probably needed in reality is what I'm getting to there. If we're counting 48 spots on the queuing lanes.
We've had that discussion. I mean, and so the other thing about the parking is the parking count is based on when you have an event, an assembly event at the school. And so on a normal day-to-day school day basis, they're not using all that parking. You can go to the school now, you can count that there's between 20 to 25 vehicles parked in the parking lot. They're not utilizing all these spaces that they have now, and we're increasing the spaces. But when there's an event happening, an assembly, where parents and grandparents are coming to the school, they need those parking spaces for those events. And so that's what the code is based on. And so, yeah, on a day-to-day basis, there's more parking than there's needed. But when there is an assembly event of any kind in the school, they're gonna use those parking spaces. And so that's what those are for.
I understand. I would also like to point out before I sign off here for the moment is that the L-shaped parking lot on option number 2 is the only one that gets rid of the parking within the the pedestrian crossings within the parking lot. That was one of the requests of the record attendance vote on the community council resolution, was to eliminate the crossings within the parking lot after utilizing the crosswalk to cross Inlet Place.
Yes. Yes, that's a valid point, and that is one of the trade-offs that that we've recognized from the original design that was presented to the community council when there were suggestions made to remove crosswalks. We did remove one crosswalk section from the parking design. So with our current design, we have just two crossings, one across the parking lot and then one across the drop-off lane. In the original design that the community council talked about, we had 3 on-site crossing lanes, and so now we're down to 2. So we did eliminate one of them.
That was because of the excessive parking spot count, if I recall.
That was part of that.
And I would point out that the concerns associated with either this parking lot design or the original one there that we have extends well beyond McCarthy's concerns and issues that he has with his driveway. It extends literally all the way down to the lagoon and all the neighbors that would try to exit utilizing Inlet Place and coming down 15th.
Sure, and that's some of the traffic elements that I'd like to have additional discussion on, which we can talk about here in a second. I think let's move to a vote here real quick, just so we can get that on the record. So I'll just go through everybody and just ask you to say.
Looks like Sharon has her hand up.
Okay, let's go with Sharon real quick. What do you have, Sharon?
My question is, I'm still thinking about reorienting the primary playground, which I think is pretty much in the shade in most of the year, or all of the year, or most of the time. If you reoriented, will there be sun studies about that location?
No, we've addressed that in our, I think it was in the last meeting, or was the meeting prior to that, where we talked about, do we want to relocate the primary student playground and move it out of the shade, because it is going to be in the shade with the existing vegetation that's along the south side of the property. And what we gathered from the BDC and the teachers was, and specifically the kindergarten teacher on the BDC, was that they'd rather be in the shade and be closer to the classrooms than to have it further away from the classrooms and not in the shade.
Okay, well, I just thought you should maybe throw that in. If you do consider reorienting the primary playground and use that space,
Yeah.
you might consider the sun issue.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that if we do go with option 2, it would be a huge improvement to move the primary playground out to this spot here, because it would have more sun away from the southern property line, and it would still be close to the kindergarten classrooms. So it would solve both issues there. And so if we do decide to move with option 2, that's something we will definitely want to consider. Okay, so just for the sake of time, we'll just run through everybody. I'll name everybody's name, and then if you can tell me what your preferred option is, whether it's current design or option 1 or option 2. So I'll start looking at my cameras. Bonnie, your start.
Current.
Okay, current. Mitch, you're next.
Option 2.
Okay, Sharon.
Option 2.
Okay, Sylvia.
I don't know. I would like to not give a vote on this.
Abstain. Okay. Kelly.
Current design.
Okay. Petra.
Current design.
Okay. Kristen.
Current design.
Okay. Patricia.
Current design.
Okay. Michelle.
Current, please.
Okay. And then Elena.
Current design.
And Sharon. Did I already ask Sharon? No, I don't think I did. Sharon. I'll skip Sharon. Looks like she's maybe not on her camera. Melena.
Current design.
Okay, Sharon?
I already voted, but it was.
Okay, that's what I thought.
It was option 2.
Okay, perfect. The camera's just, or the view screen switched around on me. Next is, let's see, did I hit everybody? Oh, Moira?
Option 2.
Okay. Did I miss anybody on the BDC? Hey, I think that's everybody. So we got a record of that. Okay, so we will go back to CPC and have that discussion and figure how we want to move forward. Before I move on from the site, I wanted to talk about a couple of traffic potential modifications that we talked about with the traffic engineer, and some suggestions that were brought up at the community council meeting last week. And so if I zoom in here to the 13th and L Street intersection, so they were showing camera footage from this intersection, looking back down towards 13th and seeing the traffic at after school and before school, the traffic that comes down in that place and up 13th to then make a right on L Street. And we looked at the congestion there. And one of the issues with the congestion is that the students that are walking and on the south side of 13th Avenue and then get to this intersection, they have to go through the crosswalk. And so that traffic, that pedestrian traffic through the crosswalk prevents cars from being able to turn right onto L Street when that pedestrian traffic is occurring. So there was 2 suggestions made. One suggestion was to, I guess it used to be this way, where 13th Avenue had a turning lane to turn onto L Street. It currently does not have a turning lane. So one suggestion was for MOA to add a turning lane. And so MOA said they were going to look at that and take that into consideration. But the other suggestion was to eliminate this crosswalk on the south side of the L Street intersection and force people to cross L Street on the north side of the intersection. And in doing so, we would then want to move this crosswalk that's on the south side of the Inlet Place 13th intersection to the north side. So if I were to just mark that up really fast, basically move this intersection to this spot right here, or move that crosswalk here and eliminate this crosswalk. We could extend the sidewalk here to that intersection, or to that crosswalk. And so then all the traffic and pedestrian traffic would then cross on the north side of 13th and cross L Street on the north side, which would eliminate the impact of the pedestrian traffic interfering with cars turning on L Street. So I thought that was a good option and a good solution. So I wanted to talk that through with you guys. And then the other thing I wanted to point out was that with the traffic camera that they were with what they were seeing for congestion, it's not going to be any more traffic than what there currently is, based on what traffic is doing now to what traffic is going to be doing with the current design. The only difference is that instead of cars coming south on Inlet Place to turn onto 13th, all of them are going to be coming northbound on Inlet Place from this exit and exiting out onto 13th that way, or if they choose, continuing north on Inlet Place to exit on 12th at L, or to go through the neighborhood and route your way out through the neighborhood. The other thing I'll point out is that, and that we talked about with the MOA traffic engineer, is that it's been suggested that all the people in Westchester at the lagoon and all the residences down here are impacted by this exit and congestion, because there's only one way out of the neighborhood down in that place. But with us removing all the traffic off of N Street and putting it on Inlet Place, it leaves N Street open so everybody in Westchester Lagoon can exit the neighborhood down through N Street, and they don't have to go up to Inlet Place to exit. So we have this exit pathway, this corridor down N Street that you can take up to 12th and come out to L Street, or you can take N Street north all the way to the park strip and get out at that location. So there's multiple ways to get out of the neighborhood, and we're not bottlenecked at Inlet Place and 13th like it's been
Hey,
suggested.
Paul, I would say that the vast majority of traffic utilizes 15th, then Inlet Place to exit out 13th Avenue. Very few people go north on N Street. It may be an option, but it adds several turns and it puts them at somewhere that doesn't have a light. That is very rare that people do that. I can attest to my daily dog walks in the evening, walk
Sure.
down 15th.
Sure. I understand that might not be the way people go with traffic, but what we've had discussions with MOA traffic on is that is a pathway. So we're not bottlenecking, and that there is an alternative option for folks.
But they don't know that the traffic is bottlenecked until they get on Inlet Place. So they don't know to take
sure.
N Street.
Sure, but if you
until
live in
they
the
show up
neighborhood-
over there on a one-way and then they can't turn around.
If you live in the neighborhood and you know that there's a school, you know that school, you have 2 times a day that you have traffic coming in and out of the school, which is for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the afternoon. And they're at the same time every day, Monday through Friday during the school year. Everybody knows that. And so it's pretty common sense to avoid that if that's not what you're wanting to go through. The other part of that is, and this is something that we are working on so we can show the community, because we understand that there is so much concern, but we're going to develop an animation that shows how the traffic pattern and the traffic flow works. And so the way it's designed, and I've said this several times before, people on Inlet Place, so if all those neighbors say, take this path, like you say, they're not going to be blocked by traffic from the school because they have the right of way. So the congestion is going to occur on the school site, and people exiting this exit will not be able to exit onto Inlet Place if cars are backed up on Inlet Place, because Inlet Place has the right of way. So if cars are stacked up on Inlet Place, you're going to get to go turn onto 13th when the light turns green on L Street before the people on the school student drop off and pickup lane. And so we are going to create an animation that shows that and shows that traffic pattern. And so we hope that I mean, we're listening to everything everybody is saying, and we've considered all of these different things, and we keep getting pushback. And I understand that there's a lot of concern. And so we're going the extra mile, and we're going to create an animation to show you guys. Hopefully that helps. And so I just wanted to talk that through, and that traffic, you know, what we talked about with MOA traffic. And I guess what I'd like to take away from the BDC today is what does everybody feel about moving this crosswalk from the south side of 13th and Inlet Place to the north side of 13th and Inlet Place? I'm seeing thumbs up from a few people. Want to have some discussion? Petra and Mitch, you guys have your hands up. I'll start with Petra.
I think that is a great idea. It's a lot less traffic that kind of walks down that side of the sidewalk. And I think that a lot of people coming from the east are actually going to not wait till they get to L Street to be forced over to the north side. They'll just do it up earlier by New Sagaya or somewhere up there where it's quieter. That's what I typically do when I sometimes want to cross on that side of the walk. And then I just wanted to say again, generally, there will be no traffic solution or parking solution that is perfect and solves everything for everyone. So when I'm looking at this, what I'm asking is which one of these solutions is doing the most for all the kids and the playground and the staff and making the most out of this site. So that's what I'm wondering every time I look at this. And okay, thanks.
Mitch, you're next.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that when Inlet Place Road was redone here 2 summers ago, that both myself and several other neighbors suggested that they'd relocate the crosswalk to exactly where you're proposing there. And even if we don't get Anchorage municipality traffic and signage or whatever to delete that crosswalk on the south portion of the intersection there at L and 13th, I think relocating the crosswalk for the purposes of the school would certainly be beneficial where you have it depicted there.
Thanks, Mitch. And yeah, we agree with you on that. I think what we've heard is that when they did the water improvements, they didn't have the budget to make those changes, which is why they installed asphalt instead of concrete on the sidewalk, even though they did this bump out within the sidewalk. And so what we're already planning to do as part of this project is to rip out that asphalt and put in concrete. And so we will, I think what I'm hearing is everybody, it sounds like everybody likes this idea, is as part of the school project, we'll move the crosswalk to the north side. So it won't be an MOA project, it will be part of the school project. And then we'll infill this bump out so we have a larger sidewalk area, and that will all be concrete from this crosswalk to get to the front of the school.
There was another question that I had for you. I see you had the bump out that is currently at the crosswalk, the currently existing crosswalk, but you seem to have moved, you've eliminated several street parking spots across from McCarthy's house and to the north there across from the Clark residence as well. So those are commonly used parking spots, and you are deleting those or removing them off of out of existence with that bump out extending.
Like right in this area?
Yes, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Those, we all use those parking spots. Please leave them.
But then I've heard complaints that you guys have said that you don't want that to be parking because then you think parents will bypass the line and park on the street and for drop off. So I'm sure, which one would you rather have?
Well, if it's a residence that's parked with their vehicle there, obviously that spot is taken by the resident. It's not going to be used as a drive-through if there's a vehicle parked there. But people can utilize open spaces for that 10 minutes is certainly reasonable during the pickup to stage for pickup. None of us have issues with that. But as far as completely removing year round, you know, several parking spots along our street there for street parking options is an issue.
Makes sense. So yeah, I mean, I'm making a note. So you guys would like to see the parking maintained on the west side of Inlet Place up to 13th. Okay. And I think by moving the crosswalk and that will, I think that makes it even easier to do that, because part of the reason why we did here what we did was because AWWU created this bump out right here for this crosswalk, and so we just extended that bump out to the driveway. But if we can push that bump out from this point, from basically the south side of 13th to the north side of 13th where the crosswalk is, and let this area be the bump out where I just boxed in orange.
Actually, the point of the bump out there was to emphasize the one-way aspect of Inlet Place.
Understood. And you're wanting this parking back right here.
Correct, but with the bump out to emphasize the narrower road with the one lane aspect is needed, and that was pushed for and advocated for during the road construction project.
So would you like that to be like more like that then?
To retain the bump out, yeah, but not take parking spots away, retain the existing bump out.
Understood. Okay. Hey, Kristen, you had your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. If you move the crosswalk, would it go back to ancient history and put a stop sign for the traffic coming south on Inlet Place? So they'd have to stop. Right now, there's no stop sign. So the people turning up the hill when they come south down Inlet Place and turn up 13th, they have the right of way over everything.
Yeah, yes. People traveling south on Inlet Place now would have to stop at the crosswalk before turning onto 13th.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
I like that.
Any other discussion points or comments on the traffic, MOA traffic that we just talked about? Okay. No, that's good. I thank you all for that input. I think that that's valid, and we'll go back to the MOA traffic department and talk to them about how we move forward with putting this into our project. Okay, let's see. Go back to our agenda. So we are running a little bit late. It's 4:54 now. We're scheduled until 5 o'clock today. So I want to be respectful of everybody's time. What I have next on the agenda is to review some design material. I can do that for the next 5 minutes, or can everybody stay a few minutes, like 5 to 10 minutes longer? Okay, I see some thumbs up. If you guys have to sign off at 5, that's okay. We're just gonna go through some design material just to show you guys where we're at and where we're headed. And then the last thing, and I could talk about this here real quickly. And we need to schedule these meetings with Patricia and your school staff. We need to schedule a couple of meetings here in the next week or two to finalize exterior and interior finishes, color selections, and then also talk about furniture and finalize furniture selections. So that's something just to put on your radar, Patricia. We're going to want to schedule those with you in the next week or two.
Okay, Paul, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so I'll just go through the design material, and this was developed and dated January 4th. And so this information, these drawings were provided to the school board as an update. And so we have the parking configuration as you guys have seen. And then we showed how we've modified the parking lot. We gave this blow up. And so I can talk briefly about this. So this is how the playgrounds evolved in terms of based on our last information gathering with the BDC. So we've shifted the playground a little further north to avoid some more of the shadowing to maximize southern exposure. And then we have the asphalt play area. We shifted the asphalt play area, the Foursquare, and the different hopscotch painted areas, shifted those to the west. So we get more southern exposure. This is the corner of the building, so we get southern exposure here. And then we moved we were talking about having all the basketball courts in the hockey rink, but we talked about moving one court out. And so that's pulled out, and also west of the school building. So maximizing our southern exposure for that basketball court. And then within the hockey rink, we have the general painted area, and then another 2 hoops, a basketball court with 2 hoops, and then some Foursquare within the hockey rink area. And so that's how the playgrounds evolved. The one thing I need to point out and note is our playground equipment. I know in one of our earlier BDC meetings, we were talking about having some themed playground equipment, like some of the municipal parks have, with like a pirate ship or a whale or something like that. And we've got those priced out now with Cornerstone and the contractor, and they're significantly like double the price, if not, I think maybe even triple the price of just your standard equipment, playground equipment. And so right now we're looking at ways to cut and meet the budget. And so one of the ways we're looking at doing that is just providing standard playground equipment and not a themed playground equipment. So that's something that just wanted to share with the BDC, so there's not a surprise later on. But it is going to be brand new equipment. It's all going to be with the ADA accessible, the soft play surfaces and whatnot there. And then we are showing, the open field area with a flat, basically great area for play field, soccer field, and then the development of the sledding hill. And so the way this has been developed is, and actually this one's not showing it, but we've enhanced this further. We've contoured the sledding hill so you have a gentler slope on the south side of the hill to walk up to the hill, and then you would slide down into the play field. And then we've surrounded that backside of the sledding hill, that's facing the neighborhood and the intersection with landscaping to beautify that backside of that hill. So we're not staring at an ugly backside of a sledding hill. And then the fence line is run up at the top of the hill. So for safety purposes, so the kids can't go slide down into a fence on the backside of the hill. And so those are all different things that we're looking at and we're developing as the design moves forward. I see, Kristen, you have your hand up. Did you have a question? No? Okay. And as I'm going through this, I'm kind of going through it quickly for the sake of time. If anybody has a question, just speak up or raise your hand. Petra?
Yeah, just quickly, because you're moving on from the landscape. I guess Peter's not on today, but I just wanted to throw out there for you to pass along to him. Well, firstly, on the playground, I don't think we were too married to a theme. I think we were more interested in making sure the equipment matches the physical way that the kids in Inlet View like to play and climb. So I hope we'll get a chance to kind of look at the variety of options, even if it's considered more standard playground equipment. And then as far as the trees go, I see that there's a little tiny note up there about those existing trees on the north west corner.
Yep.
So yeah, I hope that Peter's going to take a good look at those and show them in their actual size. And we can keep anything that looks like it'll last because they are big, beautiful trees and a lot of birds like that area. And then finally, we do have some money in the PTA we've been saving since some of our trees were cut down by ASD without our notice. And so we're very interested in some kind of a arboretum, or I mean, like a tree variety garden that has to reflect Alaskan trees and Alaskan vegetation. In particular, I was talking with another landscape architect about down on the south side of the site between the school and the south border. So some kind of a tree garden or anyway, we would love to talk about that more when we get a chance. I don't know if that'll come before the 95% set presentation, but just want to throw it out there. Okay.
Yeah,
thanks.
no, that's all good. And those are all things that we've talked about with Corvus, with Peter Briggs, our landscape architect. And so those are all things that are actually already part of the design and they're included in the UDC package because all that stuff had to be finalized for the Urban Design Commission. Because one of the things we're doing is in order to get line of sight in and out of the school property for safety concerns, because the Title 21 requires that landscaping be along the entire perimeter, but that blocks lines of sight by doing that. And so what we've done is we've grouped trees and shrubs that are required per the zoning code into these clusters. And so you can see these different clusters, which allows for line of sight between the clusters for safety purposes and security purposes. And so that's an alternative design method that has to be approved by the UDC because it's not, the zoning code allows for alternative options like that, but if you go strictly by the code, you have to just place these things along the entire perimeter. And so part of that design method is we have developed all these trees with different species. And so it does become a learning environment for the kids and it is an arboretum. And so all these different tree species along the perimeter of the school allow an opportunity for the kids to go to and learn about the different tree species on their school property. And we talked about even having labels and things like that. So it is more like a true arboretum. And so that's something that we're already incorporating. And then these existing trees, this is all survey data. And so these are where the tree trunks are located. And then obviously they're a lot bigger trees. So the foliage is bigger than what's shown, but these are all the individual tree trunks that are surveyed into the site. So that's exactly where they are. And the intent is to maintain all those if possible, as long as they're in good health and good shape. And the two differences are the darker ones are the spruce trees. And then the ones that aren't dark are the leafy trees. Does that clarify what you were asking about, Petra? Mitch, your hand's up.
Yeah, you referenced the Title 21 compliance with the line of sight to the school.
Yeah.
Can you explain how that is complied with on the south property line? Because the south property line it has existing dense vegetation and also fences too from the adjacent properties. And I have noted on all of the 4 comparable schools to Inlet View in the urban areas here, being Denali, Fairview, Chugach Elementary, and the existing Inlet View, that all of them have a road that separates the school from the adjacent properties. And this plan here does not, and that's probably how it complies with the line of sight to the school, which I'm seeing not being complied with here with the dense vegetation and fences.
Yeah, I think you might have misunderstood me. So the Title 21 doesn't require line of sight. Title 21 requires screening and separation with vegetation. And so they require vegetation around the entire perimeter. And then, and because these are right of ways, there's less of a tree count along these three perimeters of the site. And you have to have a certain amount of trees and a certain amount of shrubs per tree per the zoning code along the perimeter, addressing the right of way. When you're addressing neighborhood or resident lot, and there is no driveway or right of way, like on the south side, you have to have even more trees and more shrubs to have a screen, a buffer between the residents and the school site. And so what I was saying about line of sight is ASD and the school wants a line of sight in order to maintain security and safety. And so we have to go with an alternative compliance method in order to group these trees together in order to create lines of sight. So that's actually an alternative compliance method within the zoning code. With regards to the south end of the site, the zoning code requires this to be a buffer and not have any line of sight and have a lot of vegetation between the two. So we have an existing vegetation line that is going to be maintained. And then we're also adding additional vegetation on the school property side to enhance or to increase that vegetation buffer between the school and the residences.
Yeah, well, that would obviously eliminate or preclude the line of sight from the south, having all that vegetation, both the existing and also your newly added vegetation, which I know is called for in several documents as far as trying to emphasize security and eyes on the property is the visibility.
Correct. Yeah. So I mean, with that said, we are not going to have the line of sight on the south side of the property, but we're trying to maximize our line of sight on the other three sides of the property. Okay. Before I move on, is there any other questions on the site? Okay. So I'll just move on to the floor plan. So the floor plan is the same as what you guys have seen, but with a couple of exceptions. So one thing we've modified is we've modified the admin space to have a better line of sight into the vestibule and at the front door from the admin area. So we've increased the glass and the visibility along this wall here. The principal shifted a little bit, but she still has her windows to view the front of the school. And so that's a minor change that occurred there. And then the other minor change occurred is we used to have the campfire kitchenette and the campfire storage over here in the gym, but we moved that so it's accessible off the NPR because we understand that the NPR is the main room that the campfire is in. So that got moved to the NPR side instead of the gym side. We added an outdoor storage area for snow removal equipment. And then we have building storage access off the gym side. So that is a minor change. And then I think that the most major change is that when you come in the front door and into the lobby, we moved the stairs from this wall here and made that more of a central stair, wrapping this column that's in the middle here. So this open stair, you come up to a landing, you're half a level up, you look down onto the lobby that's all open. And then our learning stairs shifted over to this wall. And where we had the library on the first level over in this corner of the building, or the section of the building, we moved that upstairs and took the special programs department, the special programs classroom, the ELL classroom, the teacher's lounge, the OTPT classroom, and the observation room and workroom for special programs, moved those downstairs. And then we moved the library upstairs, which I'll show you in just a second. We shifted the elevator around slightly so we can close off the classroom corridor and lock that up after hours. But you still have access to the elevator. And then the bathroom core, we modified how the spaces around the bathroom core, the building storage, the sprinkler riser room, the comm and electrical rooms, how that functions around the bathroom core. I don't know if you guys remember, but before we had to get to these back of house spaces, you had to go through the bathroom to get in there. And so we wanted to avoid that conflict from a privacy standpoint. So we've eliminated that congestion. And so you access these back of house spaces through their own entry points now versus going through the bathrooms. So those are the changes that we made on the first level.
Paul, where do guests and visitors go to the bathroom? In those bathrooms then right there?
Yeah,
Okay.
these are the main core bathrooms. And then there's also, and then you have teachers' bathrooms right here, two teachers' bathrooms. I believe, depending on the school and how they operate, the PTA and parents that are volunteers and helping out at the school, they would have access to this teacher's bathroom as well. So if I move on to the second floor, you can see the libraries in purple. So you come up that open stair, you come up to the top of that landing. That landing looks down into the space below. That core of the bathroom is just like it is downstairs, where you don't have to go through the bathroom to get to the back of the house stuff anymore. You can go through the back of the house independently. And then the library being on the second floor, it's right at the top of the landing. And so we have the library and the tech lab. We are opening, we're basically going to have a pair of doors in here. It's not shown yet, but we're going to have a pair of doors and then glass in this wall. So these spaces will open up onto each other, but they could also be closed and be separate from each other. And so the library now is upstairs. And we're trying to maximize height within the library as well by putting it upstairs, where downstairs it was limited to a 9-foot ceiling. Upstairs, we're going to try to maximize the height with the ceiling there by basically trying to expose the structure and getting as much height as we can in that space. So it feels has a more volume. And so those are the changes that we've made to the plans. Is there any questions on the plans?
I just have a general question about ASD's direction as far as bathrooms go. As ASD, I know this is the first new school that's been built in a long time, but a unisex bathroom or some kind of a bathroom like that anyone can use, is that something you considered or could fit in? Maybe because this is the upstairs where the 6th and 5th and 6th graders are. I don't know. I just wondering if this is a direction that ASD is going at all, is including an optional bathroom.
We have not had that discussion on the elementary ed level.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if they've had that discussion on the middle school or high school level. I don't know if, Tom, you want to speak to that?
It's actually a very good question, because it hasn't been addressed to me. I know they've talked about it within the education side of the house, but I haven't received any clear guidance on how that works. Our marching orders are, we have boys and girls bathrooms. I've noticed in that many of the buildings for the staff, it's just simply a either or. It's one toilet, one sink. That you lock the door, one person's in there at a time. So
yeah, I'm just kind of projecting forward in time. We're hoping the school will work for 50 more years. So I just I don't see the situation changing necessarily in the future. So it might be nice to have a room nearby or kind of tag a spot that could be altered to be made into a unisex bathroom in the
From an
future.
operational standpoint, we do have that. So on the second level here, this toilet room, that's just a single stall toilet room that could be for either sex, or just multi-sex, unisex. That's off the hallway. And so operationally, that could be a dedicated a toilet room that is for that purpose on the second level. And then the same thing on the first level, this toilet room can be dedicated to that. If operationally the principal chooses to do that, that could become a unisex bathroom open to the students and not just a parent and teacher bathroom.
Could you move over so you could see the nurses' room? Could a unisex bathroom be incorporated from the hallway to there maybe?
It could, yeah. I mean, we could move. I mean, right now the intent is you have an entry point off the corridor side and then an entry point off the waiting side. So right now, we could rearrange some of that so that room can be accessed off the hallway versus having to come into the nurses' suite. But I don't know, wouldn't you prefer for the students to have to come into your suite versus having direct access to the bathroom?
There's benefits for both. There's definitely benefits for them not to have to be accessed right from where I am. You've got a kid that's sick, needs access, kind of shut off. So I can see benefits to both. If there was room to even make it where maybe I function pretty well with a little space, and I know I'm not the nurse that's going to live in this school forever, but like this is a lot of space. I'm almost wondering if you could take some as a unisex bathroom that's accessed from the corridors, and then have another small bathroom accessed from the nurse's office is what I was wondering. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely an option. I mean, I think we have room there to do that. I mean, we could carve in, just looking at this right here, we could carve in a unisex bathroom right there. That's access off the hallway, and then just shift the doorway to right here.
Yeah, because looking at that there, that's probably 3 times the space I have now, which I know is a smaller space, but it definitely seems like you could work something into that area.
Okay, no, that's good. Mitch, I see your hand up.
Yeah, kind of a bigger picture out into the future look here as far as what ASD is looking at. But I know on the federal level right now, there's quite a bit of discussion as far as universal pre-K. And I know the school design that we're only adding 1 classroom going from 11 to 12. Has there been any discussion on the ASD side as far as incorporating universal pre-K into elementary schools, in particular this one? And should we potentially be looking at additional rooms to support that?
Yeah, from what I understand, and I don't know if anybody from ASD wants to talk about this, but from what I've heard in board meetings, is that they're looking at that and the pre-K program and how they could actually utilize some of the capacity that they have in their buildings for pre-K programs throughout the district. And so that's something that they're looking at. And then specifically to the build out for Inlet View, what we've done in terms of the program is we have some flexibility in terms of how the space is used. We have the special program classroom right here, which can be a special program, can be a pre-K if it's determined that a pre-K is needed. It really just depends on the need of the school and how what their students are needing. And I think that, if I'm not mistaken, comes down to how the principal uses the spaces and who she assigns to what. Just like with, right now we're showing 3 kindergarten classrooms and 4 primary classrooms. They might need 4 kindergarten classrooms one year and 3 primary classrooms because of the way they have their student capacity numbers. So we've built that flexibility into the space, and it's based on how the principal wants to use the school. So the special program, those classroom is an additional classroom that can be used in different ways. And then the same thing with the resource classroom upstairs. That's kind of an additional classroom that can be used as a dedicated resource classroom, or it can be an alternative classroom for different needs. Does that answer your question, Mitch?
Yeah, it does for the most part. I don't know if anybody at ASD wants to elaborate on that or has any clarification, but yeah, I'm curious, and my wife works in the pre-K world too, so that's something that's definitely a topic that I'd like to discuss.
Yeah, that the topic has been discussed. We've implemented several pre-K programs across the district. However, all of those have been made using available space, especially if we're gonna go in, we have to do some renovations to meet the pre-K needs. So we usually we end up using what extra capacity we have to meet those needs. And usually those are the schools that get the pre-K programs.
It just doesn't sound like there's going to be a whole lot of surplus capacity, only adding 1 classroom. That was kind of where I was going with that.
Well, I guess the good news is on these buildings, and most of the buildings that we are constructing, For example, like Eagle River High School is pretty much a carbon copy of Diamond, but it's less one wing. So in the future, we could add a wing. Inlet View offers the same flexibility in terms of if we decided to make the school bigger in the future, we could potentially add on additional classrooms.
Yeah, this is where we kind of carved out this area for a wing. And so we actually show, as part of the ed spec, we have to show potential relocatable classroom locations. And so we show 4 relocatables off of this wing here. And if it ever wanted to become permanent, they could build a 4 classroom pod off this wing here as well in the future. So there is some thought put into that for future purposes. Not that that's what they're planning on. It's just if there was ever a need, they would do that. In addition to, knowing that they have capacity at other schools, that they might be utilizing capacity at other schools for pre-K programs potentially. Okay, so I'll move on real quickly and go through the exteriors. I did show you guys these briefly as they were in progress at the last meeting. And so we're still refining these and working with the contractor on pricing for the different materials. We are getting pushback from the contractor that all the different materials we're showing is adding cost, maybe unnecessary cost. So we're looking at how we could potentially simplify some of these materials. But this kind of just shows how the different materials might come together. We're looking at a durable, CMU veneer wainscot at the bottom, just to kind of protect the building and the base of the building. We've got this particular, it looks like a shake. It's really not a shake. It's gonna, what we're proposing right now is a metal shingle. It's a shiny metal shingle that has a nice aesthetic to it. We've got the glass curtain wall at the entry with the canopy. We're looking at how can we incorporate some wood elements into the canopy. One of the things we're looking at, or that we're currently having the design, is for the decking on the underside of the canopy, for that all to be a T&G wood decking underneath as a soffit. We've got this element of the architecture design is right now it's a ceramic stone. It's a tile element. And then this lap siding is a Parklex. It's a phenolic resin panel. And we're looking at a variety of blue colors, trying to integrate school colors into the building. And then this vertical material is a corrugated metal panel. So it has durability, it's pre-finished, but it has a lower cost element to it. We're also looking at, with the contractor, the option of doing insulated metal panels instead of the wall system that we're currently having the design, where we build up all of our materials for our continuous exterior insulation that's required. And then we're having girts and different attachment methods, and then applying a metal siding to all of that in the end. Why don't we just do an insulated metal panel that has all of that sandwiched together? So we're looking at that as an option. As we kind of rotate around the building, see all those same materials that I just described, just in the different areas. I think that's really it. I think that this is obviously this is the west side of the building, and then this is the east side of the building. Any questions, Elena?
Yeah, I was just curious, are those little small windows right where your hand is, your cursor is, are those natural light into the gym?
Not into the gym, but into the corridor in front of the gym. So so that would be light coming from here, funneling down into this 2-story space, or a 1.5 story space, which when I go to the first floor plan would be this corridor. So we're funneling light into the corridor right here.
Oh, okay. Does the gym have any natural light, or is it all closed?
It does. So along the north wall of the gym, we have these cowl wall. They're translucent panels, and so these 3 panels all allow daylight into the gym.
Perfect. Thank you. I was hoping for that.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, well, I know we ran long, it's 5:24. I appreciate everybody's time. Does anybody have any final thoughts or final comments?
Yeah, Paul, this is Sharon. I have a question that isn't part of this last part of well, it's not part of anything you've mentioned, but you were
Sure.
mentioning how the Cornerstone is costing out various things and, pushing back when when overages, et cetera. I'm curious, are they costing out the excavation work that's going to be necessary to get down to the peat level, et cetera, and the fill? Are they costing that out?
Yeah, all of that is part of their cost estimate in their site work number. And there's a total site work cost. That's part of it. That's part of their estimate to answer your
So
question.
did they break it out so that we can see what that is, just out of curiosity?
No, they have not. They just priced out just the south option, which is what the 65% drawings are showing. I think what you're asking, did they price out a cost between north and south?
Well, that would have been my first choice, yes, but I've been concerned all along about the whole lot, the whole entire lot is very boggy, but the south side is very boggy. And you're speaking to somebody who's sucked out hundreds, and I mean hundreds of gallons out of my basement more than once. So I'm just curious what their costing of this particular phase of their projected cost is, if they had it. So that was it. I was just curious.
Sure. Well, it's built into their number, based on the design and the engineering that's in the drawings. And so the engineers have developed what's necessary to mitigate the drainage and the water issues. And so that's what they've priced out. There hasn't been any study as to alternative options of how to price it out. They just priced it out based on the way it's been designed and engineered.
Okay.
And then to just add a clarification as to going back and forth with the contractor on pricing, what we're seeing in the market we're in today with higher escalation, materials not being available. There's long lead times where you can order a door and a door takes 10 months now to arrive on the job site, or ordering steel and ordering wood and different materials. Some materials are available sooner than others, just in the world we live in today with all the impacts of COVID. And so there's a lot of price fluctuation happening. And so that's all part of the ongoing process that we're working through with the contractor, to make sure we pick the right materials that they can get on time and on site without having huge delays that cost more money, and so forth. So those are all the things we're looking at. All right, anything else? Any final comments or thoughts? Petra?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
I can't, okay, couldn't see if I was unmuted. I just wanted to say that these elevations and 3D renderings are very helpful, and they're looking better every time. And I also, as a personal comment, I do agree with your contractor. There's too many different materials on here. So yeah, I would encourage you to definitely simplify per volumes and simplicity, like make the whole gym volume be a single type of material on the outside. And that special spine that you have going along the glass is one special material, which you have it, but yeah, take one off and I think that it'll start to look even better. So anyway, thank you for these renderings. They're helpful.
Yeah,
and I agree with the simplicity. And I just was a little alarmed when you said corrugated metal. I definitely don't want corrugated silver metal on the school. So I hope you're talking about maybe a lower, flatter profile, neutral colored metal, but not shiny corrugated metal.
Okay, sure. I appreciate the input. Yeah, no, not shiny corrugated, but a metal panel profile. If you go to Turnigan, there's a metal panel on there. It's something like that, probably.
Okay, I'll take a look. Thanks.
Okay, Mitch, you have your hand up.
Yeah, just touching on what Sharon was speaking to there. I just wanted to read one sentence here out of the September 8th geotechnical report that came out in 2021. This was several months after the decision was made to build on the south end of the site. It says the project site is overlain by varying amounts of fill and compressible peat that are not suitable for supporting a foundation, pavement section, or gravity-fed utility. They go on to list if you remove the top 6 foot of all material that contains peat, that it is, and then replace it with off-site fill, it is then suitable to build on. And that's concerning that this, this came out after the decision had already been made to build on the south half of the site. And presumably common sense would say if you built on the north half of the site where the existing school sits, that the amount that would be spent for the soil remediation there would be minimal or probably nearly non-existent compared to building on the south half of the site. With that being said, on a different note here, I do want to point out that all community council added members voted in opposition to the currently proposed parking lot design. And I think that we need to keep in mind that if we don't concede to the neighbors' concerns here, that there will likely be lawsuits that could potentially delay this project. I've heard rumor of it, talking to neighbors, and please keep that in mind. If we don't address these concerns, that it may delay the May groundbreaking. That's what I have to say.
Thanks, Mitch. And just to respond to the comment about the geotech and the peat, so that's consistent across the entire site. And so that would have to be done no matter where the school was built, whether it was the north or the south. Anywhere that the existing footprint of the school is not, is all going to be peat. And that's typical within the area, and on most school sites. What will vary is peat might be from 2 feet to 4 feet to 6 feet, and in the case where it's been described in the geotech, but that's going to be consistent throughout our project site, just as the water table level is consistent throughout the project site. It's not just between the south and the north, it's the entire site where the existing school is not already built.
Right, but presumably if you built the new school over portions or all of the area where the existing school sits, that you would not have to do the same sort of removal of peat. And I want to point out that the initial geotechnical report mentioned no peat issues, and it wasn't until the idea of building on the south side of the lot was conceived when the supplementary geotechnical report came out, then it mentioned what I just read off. But the initial report did not mention anything about peat.
Okay.
But it was presumed we're going to build on the north half.
I'd have to go back and look at the initial report. I'd be surprised if the initial report didn't mention the peat.
Well, I would encourage you to read it. I have, and it doesn't mention it.
Thanks. Elena, you have something else?
No, I didn't have my hand up. I don't think I did.
Okay, cool. Thank you. It doesn't look like I see any other hands. Is there anything else? One last time. All right. Well, thank you everybody for participating. We will schedule another BDC meeting for March, and we'll go through Patricia to schedule that. And we'll keep everybody informed. We will be, we are continuing to post updates to the In the View replacement website. So you can check there and point neighbors to that site for updated information. And so with that, we'll close out the meeting.
Paul, I would like to ask that we open it up for any non-BDC members if they have any comments or questions in order to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act prior to signing off.
We actually don't need to have an open public discussion as part of the Open Meetings Act. That's been clarified by the ombudsman. We were doing that for the last couple of BDC meetings, just as an opportunity to be more open. But we didn't plan for that in today's agenda because it's not a requirement for the Open Meetings Act. And so we weren't planning to do that. I'll ask Charlie if he wants to do that or not.
I'm okay with it. We can have some community discussion. If Paul, you're available to stay on, I can stay on. If the BDC wants to stay on, they can. But this will be recorded. You can always look at it later.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do that then. We'll go into that. If the BDC members, those that need to sign off, want to sign off, you can. Looks like we've got, let's see, Lois Epstein and Deborah Hanson and Fran and Cecilia. Looks like, if I'm missing anybody, I think there's those 4 people are on here. Would you guys like to say anything as part of an open discussion?
I would, it's Lois. I would just like to get answers to the questions I asked in chat, which is what is the amount of green space that would have been available under the 2 options? And as you did on the site, if you could break out the total green space, but also the green space without the including that's in the park, what's in the parking lot, since that wouldn't be accessible to the students as play areas. So I think the presentation talked about changes in green space, but it did not quantify it. And I think that needs to be quantified. And
just to clarify, Lois, you're asking about, because we can provide what you're looking for. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're looking for. So you want different green space calculations than what's already been provided?
Yeah, for option 1 and 2 that was presented today.
Oh, you want percentages for those? Okay.
Well, no, feet, square feet, sorry.
Yeah, square footages. Yeah.
Yes, and then breaking it out just total, but also not including the green space in the parking areas.
Okay.
And then the other question I asked was, is there any attempt to get a Green Building Council LEED certification at any level for energy efficiency for this building? You know, as we all know, when you build a new building, that's the time to build in its most cost effective and use sustainable products, et cetera, energy and materials. So is there any thought going into that?
Yeah, and we could provide formal response to these questions and post these to the website, but just an informal response now. The school district doesn't have any policies in place for USGBC LEED certifications for their buildings because it does cost a significant amount of money actually to get those certifications, and the application process you have to go through. But what we do, what ASD does do is they require us to implement, as the design team, to implement sustainable design solutions and environmentally friendly materials, products, and energy efficient boilers and mechanical equipment. So we implement all of those sustainable elements into the design, but we don't go through the LEED certification process with ASD projects.
So one follow-up, were there decisions that have been made that have rejected more sustainable materials or energy efficiency designs for cost reasons at this point, or has it all been accepted?
No, nothing's been eliminated from the project from an energy efficiency standpoint. I mean, not really, nothing's been eliminated yet. The only thing that we've made changes on is like changes to materials for like available materials for like exterior finishes, which doesn't have any impact on the sustainability. And then like different playground equipment, stuff like that, which doesn't have an impact either.
Well, the material itself does have inherent environmental costs. There's been a lot of work done on that in recent years in terms of how much energy is required for manufacturing the materials.
Sure.
And that's a significant percentage. I was, in fact, fairly surprised about that.
Right, yeah, we're not making any changes that have impacted that analysis.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Next, does anybody else? Cecilia, Deborah?
This is Deborah. I had a question. So you have hired a cost estimating firm. Are you going to make the cost estimates public at some point?
Yeah, I believe from what we've talked about with ASD is that everything that is produced on the project is available for public record. We haven't posted the cost estimates anywhere like on the website yet, but I believe we can. That's something I just have to get permission from ASD to do.
Well, I would appreciate the information being posted on the website. Thank you.
Hello, this is Cecilia Lucara. I'm a neighbor off of 12th. In terms of the site, I mean, I agree that there's issues with bogginess, but I have to tell you, the 12th Avenue side is also just as boggy as possibly the other south side end of the lot. I mean, you know, I personally have had to put in French drains around my house to keep the water out. So in terms of technology and knowledge, I have faith in the engineers on this project. In terms of the parking lot, I mean, you know, I just want to make sure, as I've said before, that drop off and pickups are as safe as possible and that kids aren't walking across the street or darting out into traffic. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you, Cecilia. Fran, I think you're next. We can't hear you, Fran. It doesn't look like you're muted, but we can't hear you.
Can you hear me any better?
Yep, we can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, good. Thanks. Basically a comment and a couple of questions, and I just wanted to comment what I had said in the chat was that, you know, human nature is to find the path of least resistance, and parents will still park on the streets if it means they don't have to wait in the queue on the site. And for that reason, I do like the last version that you had, that sort of L-shaped one, which I think will take a lot of the pressure off of Inlet Place. Also, I was looking at that. I came a little bit late to the meeting. How many parking spaces do you have in that second or last design? It looked like a lot less than the original design.
It's the same. It's the same amount.
Oh, okay. It just looks smaller. Okay, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that I'm missing that wants to speak tonight? Yeah, looks like that's it. All right, well, if you have any other questions, please do submit those via the website or to Charlie, or to Charlie as a point of contact for the project. We'll get answers to what's been discussed tonight onto the website later this week. And Lois, we are still finalizing the response to those items we told you we would get to you, and we're trying to get those done this week for you. So I think that's it for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We really enjoy working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to stop the recording now.